Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. So y'all, it is about 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, the day this episode drops, and I am finally sitting down to record it. I am sitting in my hotel room at the Ocean Resort in Atlantic City, New Jersey, where my show, The $1 Million Experience, also known as Sun Records Live, also known as Under the Sun, the show that I wrote and have been touring for the last bunch of years, will be performing this weekend. And I got to tell you, it's always interesting coming to Atlantic City because my grandparents loved it here when I was growing up, and they would always bring me here. And I went through phases of loving it and hating it. And then my buddy Randy and I came and hung out here a bunch, and it's like a weird place with a lot of memories. That's also like a kind of like, well, let's just say that it's not Vegas and it's glory days anymore, but it's always awesome to be performing here. So I'm really excited to be here. And I mean, honestly, is there anything more casino-y than starting to do my homework at 1 o'clock in the morning the day it's due? But yeah, so that's where I'm at and having a good time so far. Looking forward to this one. Before we get going, there are a couple of things that I want to share with you other than that. So I spent a lot of the last week working on something, and it's not quite time for it yet, but I do want to tell you all about it. So there are these two guys, John and Hank Green, the Green brothers, and I like them a lot. They're authors, they are podcasters, they are YouTubers, they are just kind of like really popular in nerd culture in a lot of ways. And they're good dudes. And one thing that they did was they started something called Project for Awesome, which is basically a grant distribution system where anyone can nominate a charity to get voted for to receive some money from this fund. And it's very cool. And it's part of their Project to Decrease Suck, which is always a good good strategy. And so I, along with Dr. Diana Kester, who y'all heard on here recently, put together a almost 4-minute long video about the tree kangaroo conservation program, and we submitted it to the to this Project for Awesome to hopefully get on their page where people can vote. And hopefully we'll be able to get some money for tree kangaroo conservation. So I'm really proud of the video. The voting isn't open yet, but if you want to see what the video looks like, you can go to the Rossifari YouTube page and you can see it on there. It's 4 minutes long. It is narrated by me. Diana and I wrote it together. And all of the footage in it is either my footage of tree kangaroos at various zoos that I've been to, or Dr. Lisa Daybeck, who runs the TKCP, sent me some wild tree kangaroo footage to use, which was absolutely incredible. So if you want to go check that out, please do. And I'll be reminding y'all on my socials and on here when it is time to vote. It's only a couple days. It's right around Valentine's Day, and anything you could do to spread the word would be a really, really huge deal. So go check that out if you want. And either way, get your voting fingers ready. I guess it's online. That was a weird way to say that. But I'll have all the details in all the places. And other than that, it's been a pretty chill week. Been hanging out in Harrisburg. Actually went to Zoo America with my good friend Laura Schenk, and we had a really good time hanging out there. I love going to zoos in the winter because well, let's just be honest. It's awesome. Less people, different animals doing different behaviors. And yeah, it's always a good time. So I really enjoyed that trip a lot. And thank you, Laura, for coming with me. And so, yeah, with all of that said, this is Rossifari Zoo News. So make sure you keep sending those stories to me, tag me in them on the socials, or email me, rossifaripod@gmail.com. And I think it's time to get to it because we're going to start off with a headline story featuring a very special guest. All right, so our headline story this week is not from a zoo or aquarium, but is actually from out in the wilderness, where a person was injured by a snow leopard when trying to take a selfie with the cat. And while I don't think we necessarily need an expert to tell us why that's a bad idea, I thought it was a really interesting occurrence, and so I brought on an expert to tell us about it. So enjoy this interview.
My name is Imogen Cancellare. I am a big cat scientist. I primarily use genetic techniques to address questions about wide-ranging populations, primarily carnivores. So basically that means I'm trying to understand how gene flow translates to movement, to understand how animals move across really large landscapes.
Very cool. That's a lot. That's a lot. So are you an independent scientist or do you work for an organization or what's going on?
Previously, yes. Currently, no. I unfortunately was one of the federal researchers who was laid off by DOGE last year.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Go ahead. I have thoughts, and I'm sure you do too.
I do, yeah. So unfortunately, my research contract in a federal lab that I was working in was cut a little bit early. And so I am back on the job market. But as you noted, there aren't tons of snow leopards in Montana where I'm located. So most of my research is both in the United States as well as internationally. So I'm currently on the job market.
Well, very good. We'll a whole lot of places that do a whole lot of research will be hearing this. So hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So we met on Instagram because you have a video going viral right now. And so viral that one of the comments I made has almost 1,000 likes on it at this point in time. Gotta love the big viral stuff. Yeah. So, let's talk about that story because that's why I wanted to invite you on here. So basically my understanding of it is that a tourist decided to take a selfie with a snow leopard. And weirdly, it didn't go well. And the snow leopard attacked said tourist. And honestly, I mean, if we're going to be completely honest, I don't need a scientist to tell me why you shouldn't take a selfie with the snow leopard. But it always sounds better to have the official thing. So can you explain kind of what you saw there?
Yeah, absolutely. So this, when the news story came out, I was a little bit surprised for a couple of different reasons. The first and foremost being that prior to this, there have been no known documented attacks by a snow leopard on a person.
Wow.
And that is owed to a couple of different reasons. One, snow leopards live on what we call the roof of the world, which is the high elevation mountains in Central Asia. And so they live in these really rugged, remote parts of the world. And it's just frankly very difficult for humans to get there. And so there's not a lot of opportunity for humans to interact with these big cats compared to, other species all over the world. They're also very rare and elusive and secretive. And so just the opportunities don't really exist. However, where this attack occurred, it was in northern China, in a region that is north of where I previously had worked. And I will say that, snow leopard range, 60% of snow leopard range is in China. So the most snow leopards in the world are probably in China. Again, still really remote. And in this particular case, the coexistence between humans and wildlife in China and in a lot of Central Asia is a lot different than we see in like North America or in Western Europe. And just in terms of tolerance, both due to like legal standing in terms of the snow leopard having a protected status, but also due to like spiritual and cultural associations with like Tibetan Buddhism. And I won't go into that too much because I'm certainly not an expert on it. But all that to say, basically, you're not really primed for these negative interactions like we see in other parts of the world, like in particular the United States. And so when this attack occurred, it was in northern China. Allegedly, the person saw the snow leopard near a road, which is not entirely uncommon. I mean, I have myself have seen a wild snow leopard near a road. And allegedly, this person got out of the vehicle or was already on foot. I'm not sure about that, but she approached the cat. She was able to approach the cat before the animal ran away. And she got way too close. She got within 10 feet. I saw, one online news report state, and the animal attacked her from the front and bit her face or her neck, and then sat on top of her while she, was waiting for human help, which she did receive. And as far as I can tell, she is okay in terms of she's alive. And yeah, it's just it is a wild story. All the, specific details, obviously some of that is unknown. Like, how was she able to get so close to the individual? Questions about, was the animal injured? Was the animal hunting? Was the animal guarding something? And we can get into some of those specifics if you'd like, but yeah, it's a wild story.
Well, yeah. And that's what I'm so curious about, because my understanding was that this would basically never happen. First, because like you said, snow leopards are hard to find, but then because they wouldn't want to attack a human, they're not like looking at, I would assume, as like, that's not like prey. And you would think the fight or flight would be more flight in that situation. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts, especially because the cat sat on her, which, I mean, like, yes, cats will sit on you, like if you think of a house cat, but man, that seems like a really weird behavior for a snow leopard. So what are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah. So anecdotally, I have been told, so I did some research in Central Asia. I have spent time on the Tibetan Plateau in China, as well as in southern Kyrgyzstan, and talking to folks who live alongside snow leopards or have done like guided tours, et cetera. They see snow leopards a lot more than I have. And anecdotally, there have been incidents where tourists or like a tour guide, they see a snow leopard, and they have tried to get probably a little bit too close from like an ethical standpoint. And the cats just seem to really tolerate it. And I think that's owed to, again, that human wildlife tolerance. Like that wouldn't happen for so many species in so many parts of the world because of the way that they're persecuted. And the fact that these cats aren't really that worried about people, not to anthropomorphize them, but I think realistically, they're just not that concerned in the same way that we would see something like a wolf in the United States, right? Or even a wolf in Central Asia. They are persecuted more than the cats are. So again, I think unfortunately, this is just like a perfect storm of unfortunate steps. So I think that what's likely is that the animal was in the area because it was hunting or it was hungry. I suspect from the video that it is a relatively young adult, an independent adult, but a young one nonetheless, which might have contributed to the fact that this person was able to get so close. The animal wasn't startled or was curious or was just not that concerned. And I can certainly say that, having seen snow leopards myself, always from a distance, the cats always knew that we were there. And they did not mind. And so that's just kind of it's a weird scenario. And I guess maybe a similarity would be like folks that go on like safari tours in different parts of Africa where they're able to see lions. I think it's somewhat similar in terms of they're just tolerating it. But in this particular case, I think that the animal was either in search of food or in search of water. Somehow she just got way too close. And in terms of fight or flight, it was deep snow. And so realistically, I think that the animal just made a snap decision to attack her, which makes sense because we're talking about an ambush predator, right?
Right.
But for me, what makes me think that it is a young animal is the fact that it sat on top of her without attacking her further. And so I think that indicates a little bit of like confusion, to speak plainly, I bit you. Why are you still alive?
Right.
But also being confused because this is not a normal prey item. This is not a normal scenario. I think the animal was not sure what to do. And then finally, people are asking, was the animal injured? I don't think so. I didn't see any evidence of that. And then also it's the wrong time of the year for there to be any babies that, could be at play. So like definitely no young would be, in consideration for this.
Right. Okay, cool. Very good. So it is your scientific opinion that if you get close to something like a snow leopard, don't try to take a selfie with it.
That is my official opinion.
Okay.
Yes. The selfie is never, ever going to be worth it. Take a picture from a distance, take a picture. The memory will last forever. But getting close is never a good idea. Absolutely 100,000%. Because we again are seeing like worst case scenario here.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I do have one other question that I think is very important to ask about this, which is, if not friend, why friend-shaped?
You know what? I don't have a good answer to that because actually, I said in one of the comments, someone said, man, I would totally go out because I would try to pet a snow leopard. And my only comment was like, RIP and don't forget to,
Dude, that's so real though. Like I have often felt that like, no matter how much I know about this stuff, the temptation would always be there, and you just have to
100%.
be smart. Yeah.
I, as a scientist, like this is a species that I work with. Most of my research is non-invasive, meaning that I don't have to come into contact with the animal to collect data about them. But I have worked on other species where I am handling them. Like I used to work with bobcats and we were live catching them and anesthetizing them for research purposes. And, they're adorable and wonderful and cute. But when they wake up and you're in close proximity with them, it is amazing to realize that something as small as a bobcat would absolutely render like your hands useless if it bit you. And, for a snow leopard is obviously much larger, but to put it into context, a snow leopard is probably a little bit smaller in weight and in size and in height than like the North American mountain lion. But it can still seriously mess you up. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos online about snow leopards in Central Asia, like chasing this huge ungulate, like an ibex or a markhor down a mountain.
Oh yeah. And, they're incredible.
They're like 120% all the time. And they're tackling these things that are like, 2 and 3 times their body weight. We are thankfully, we are not normal prey and they don't view us as opportunistic prey, but I definitely believe that a snow leopard could kill a person in the right circumstances if they wanted to.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. There's one other thing I want to talk about before we go, if that's cool with you, which is I just want to say congratulations. You posted that you are a recent breast cancer survivor and you are a young and vibrant individual. And I cannot even imagine what that was like going through that. But rock on and congrats on getting back a good scan. I don't know the terminology, but on being cancer free. That's amazing.
No, that's very nice. I really appreciate it. It's very kind to have the opportunity to recognize that. Breast cancer is scary and I'm 38 and no family history. So, knowing your body and getting tests and getting monitoring is very important.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome.
So there you have it, folks. Don't take snow leopard selfies. It's scientifically confirmed you're not supposed to do that. But yeah, I loved having Imogen on and just very, very cool human. I hope to be able to get her back on the podcast more. So yeah, with that said, that brings us to our births and deaths for the week. And we're going to start off with something. So this is one of those things that I've been sitting on for a while, ever since the tree kangaroo workshop that you guys heard that I went to a while ago, which is that the Denver Zoo has announced a Matchie's tree kangaroo, Joey. And the little one is starting to pop out of mom's pouch now. You're starting to see a cute little head emerge. It is a boy. And, it's interesting. We use the term Matchie's tree kangaroo pretty much exclusively when talking about this particular species of tree kangaroos, but they are from the Huon Peninsula. And more frequently, places are starting to call them Huon tree kangaroos. And that is actually what the Denver Zoo called them in this press release. So just an interesting little fact, but Mom and Joey are doing well, and you need to check out the photos because it's adorable. And speaking of adorable, our friends at the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute have welcomed a female Asian elephant to their herd. After a 21-month pregnancy, the 308-pound newborn was born at 1:15 in the morning, and vets immediately had to go and do a wellness check, and all is well. But talk about an inconvenience in all regards. 21 months, 308 pounds and born at 1:15 in the morning. I love it. So she will be bonding with mom for at least a month behind the scenes, but she is a very adorable Asian elephant. If you haven't really looked at the difference between African elephant calves and Asian elephant calves, it's super interesting and kind of funny because African elephant calves look exactly like the adults, just smaller, like shrunk down, and it's very cute. And Asian elephant calves have these kind of weird red eyes and are hairy, and it's just they're very cute, but you know how people sometimes say like cute in a way that only a mother could love? Cough, cough. Anyway, worth checking out, and congrats to the team at the Smithsonian. 2 African penguins have hatched at Mystic Aquarium. And with wild populations down 97% in recent years, every African penguin chick is a huge win for the species. And these 2 were actually born during the crazy storms that were going on recently. So kind of a fun bonus to their story as well. A giraffe calf has been born at the Sydney Zoo. Both mom and baby are doing well and are currently bonding behind the scenes. And that's not the only girlet born recently, as the Hogle Zoo has welcomed a male giraffe calf to mom Minka and dad Ja. Baby is doing well, as is most adorably illustrated by his repeated bursts of zoomies. And then last but not least in births this week, Cleveland Metroparks Zoo has welcomed a baby Saki monkey. Mom Lopez and dad Luis welcomed the boy, the 5th baby for the pair. The baby is clinging to mom and appears to be doing well. Mom is back on habitat, meaning you can see the little one when you visit. And that brings us to our deaths for the week. The Melbourne Zoo has said goodbye to Siba the red panda. At 16 years old, he lived a long life for a red panda, siring 3 cubs with his lifelong mate Rashini. One of the most popular animals at the zoo, his loss is greatly felt by staff and guests alike. Savannah, one of the cheetahs at the Cincinnati Zoo, has passed away. She was one of the cheetahs who for many years was involved with the cheetah encounter runs at the zoo. She was one of the fastest recorded cheetahs ever, clocking a 61-mile-per-hour speed at one point. She had an incredibly deep relationship with her keepers, so much so that she would often, after doing her run, abandon both the lure and the food being offered, and instead choose tactile enrichment, getting some rubs and pets down as her own reward for doing a good job. So yeah, you know, it's so cool when these cheetahs that do these runs and stuff, they make such a huge impact on literally millions of guests in their lives. So Savannah is very missed. Rupert, a cockerel's she-fox that called the Duke Lemur Center home, has passed away just shy of his 16th birthday. Rupert was an important member of the Duke Lemur Center family because he was the first infant to ever be involved in their voluntary infant removal training program. Baby lemurs usually stay on their mother, clinging to her belly at first, which makes it hard for veterinarians to get weights and health checks on them. The DLC came up with a training plan to allow staff to briefly remove the baby without causing the mother stress in order to make sure they were developing in a healthy manner. Rupert and his mom, Antonia, were the first animals to receive this training, and it went smoothly, so he paved the way for improved welfare for all of the baby lemurs at the center that have come since. Slowpoke the walrus has passed away at SeaWorld Orlando. Slowpoke was approximately 49 years old, making her the oldest walrus at the park. An ambassador animal that was known for giving great splashes, Slowpoke helped many guests connect with a unique species in her time there. And last but not least, the challenges continue to mount for the Save a Fox rescue. The owner of the organization, Michaela Rains, passed away due to suicide around a year ago. Now Finnegan Fox, the most popular fox at the rescue and Michaela's best friend there, has passed away as well. Finnegan not only brought fame to the rescue for being adorable and for his special relationship with Michaela, but also was the voice of Kiriku's kitsune spirit in the Overwatch video game, leading millions of gamers to fall in love with foxes and to discover Finnegan and the rescue. I feel so bad for Michaela's husband, who is trying to keep the rescue functioning and has now lost not only Michaela, but her best friend, who was also kind of the face of the program. And with that said, we move on from births and deaths to the rest of our zoo news. And it is that time again. Valentine's Day is almost upon us, which is when you'll be able to vote for the tree kangaroo conservation program. But on top of that, it means that zoos and aquariums are offering 2 ways to celebrate. Are you excited to share a fun romantic date with someone? Well, then check your local facilities out because a lot of them are doing date night activities. Many focus on an adults-only chat about mating behaviors in human care. Some focus on speed dating or other activities like that. And most of them include some form of ambassador animals. Every year, it seems like more facilities are finding ways to help you celebrate romance with animals. Not like romance with animals, like not with, you know what I mean. Anyway. Then for those of you who are feeling, let's say, less romantic, maybe even a little bitter, many facilities are doing fundraisers where you can name a roach or another feeder insect or other food item after an ex, and then you get to watch as an animal eats them for a little bit of fun revenge. If you haven't seen Aquarium of Niagara's video about this, you have to check it out on their socials. So yeah, 2 different ways to help support zoos and aquariums at what is often their worst financial time of the year, and both include fun ways to celebrate or castigate Valentine's Day. And speaking of it being a hard time of the year for zoos and aquariums, the weather is causing a lot of issues for facilities in places as far apart as the United States and Australia. Large portions of the states are experiencing the coldest weather they have had in ages, with snow and ice even reaching areas like North Carolina. These conditions have forced many outdoor facilities to close, and some haven't even been able to set a reopening date yet over a week after the storms first hit. I actually had plans to visit a facility today, if you're listening the day this episode drops, and I was told I can't because they aren't allowed to have members of the public in yet. And this is a facility that has been closed for over a week, but there's so much snow and ice, it's just not safe for the general public. Meanwhile, in Australia, record high temperatures are also making people want to stay indoors and not visit the facilities there. I'm still amazed that there are climate change deniers and even some in the zoo and conservation world, but only a few, I think. But yeah, they're there, and I don't know. To me, it's really past the point of pretending it isn't happening. You know, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's affecting zoos and aquariums, and think about that as you're making your donations, or again, trying to figure out if you want to name a roach after somebody. The Brookfield Zoo is stepping up polar bear research efforts after the Trump administration has announced plans to open 1.6 million pristine acres of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge coastal plain in northeastern Alaska to leasing for oil and gas drilling. This is an area that has remained better for wild polar bears than most other areas in their home range, and as such, the decision has sparked lawsuits from numerous conservation groups trying to preserve the land. We need as much information as possible to help save polar bears before the drilling and mining starts and makes things even worse for them. And with the continued loss of habitat for polar bears, more and more of that work is going to have to take place at these zoos that house these bears. And remember, there are federal restrictions about getting bears into the United States that are really tricky. And because of that, it's very hard to get new polar bears into U.S. AZA facilities. So it's pretty tricky. But it is really awesome to see that Brookfield Zoo is not only stepping up their research efforts, but also bringing public awareness to this issue. Tierpark Berlin has partnered with WWF Germany to reintroduce a group of bison to Shadag National Park in Azerbaijan. The relocation process involved taking 18 bison from WAZA members across Europe and transporting them to the park where they will receive long-term monitoring. Now, obviously, this is a huge win for bison, and it's awesome to see reintroductions from zoos collaborating with each other and with external partners. And also, on a side note, if you haven't checked out their socials recently, Tierpark Berlin has one of the cutest Goodfellows tree kangaroo joeys I have ever seen. It is very cute. It's also very adventurous when a lot of them are very much not that. And so you can see a tree kangaroo joey doing some really cute stuff that I haven't seen much of, to be honest. And that brings us to
Stereotypical Animal Podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news.
Cal Academy has done research into the Galapagos lava heron and determined that the bird is in fact its own species, rather than a subspecies as had been previously believed. This is an important distinction as it now means its population has its own numbers rather than being included in larger heron numbers, so conservation efforts can be more targeted on saving this particular species and meeting its very exact needs. This is something that I always find kind of, confusing, fascinating, all of the above. Because as we realize that different things are or aren't different species, it affects their conservation. It also affects breeding programs, right? Now, I don't know if this bird has breeding programs because I'm currently spitting, and I don't know if the Galapagos lava heron has those in the world. But again, it comes down to red pandas, right? We had the two subspecies, and we weren't breeding those. But there's a whole lot of interesting genetics that you have to consider with the giraffe population in human care when you suddenly realize that we've reclassified how we view the various species of giraffe. And when you're trying to breed for genetic purity, it's very interesting. So, yeah, obviously, this is one of those know better, do better things, right? Where we all try to learn as much as we can. And as technology improves and we're able to do better, quicker, faster research, we will figure more of this out. But yeah, it definitely has a really interesting impact when you think about it from a conservation standpoint. Another interesting thing and challenge that we talk about a lot is human-animal conflict. And obviously, we started the episode with a really deep dive into that snow leopard story. But there's another one that I really wanted to touch on that deals with this. And I found this so fascinating. So the story comes out of India, and it's just apparently tigers in India have learned that school bus stops are a good place to find prey. And so as such, 4 women in the state of Maharashtra have started escorting children safely to and from their bus stops. The problem has become bad enough and the solution has been good enough that the Forest Department of India has implemented a similar initiative in 105 villages across the state. And I think this is such a great example of how easy it is for people who don't live near these conflicts to not always fully contemplate what they can look like. It is super easy to stand in my house in America or in a casino hotel room and say, hey, we need to save tigers. Who would hurt such a majestic animal? And we do need to save tigers, and they are so majestic and sleepy. But it's crazy to think that enough tiger encounters were happening with children that this initiative is needed in villages all across one of the states of India. And my guess is if it continues to work, then it will get implemented in other places. And, it's cool. These women aren't like crazy tiger fighters or anything. Just the fact that there are suddenly 4 adults around these smaller children means that the tigers are going to leave them alone because they're no longer easy prey. So it's a really interesting story, and I think a really unique look at conservation. And then last but not least in conservation news, Costa Rica has become the first Latin American country to ban all sport and recreational hunting, instituting strict penalties for those who are caught violating these laws. And on the surface, that's great, but I'll be curious to see what effect this has on the animals in the area and honestly on the conservation movement in the area. Because on one hand, yay, no hunting. But on the other hand, hunters are often really passionate conservationists, and a lot of countries use hunting to raise money for conservation. So on the surface, I think this looks great. And I mean, you know, if I had to be a person who voted for it, I would have probably said yes based on the little bit of information that I've seen, but I would have wanted more information because I will be curious to see if there are side effects to this decision that actually have negative conservation consequences. With that said, I mean, for right now, not hunting these animals is probably a good thing. And I don't actually have anything for other news this week, so that brings us to...
Oh, animal holidays. Animal holidays. Hey!
All right, it is February, and February is Adopt a Rescue Rabbit Month, International Hoof Care Month, National Bird Feeding Month, and Fishing Cat February. And there are only 2 days this week that get their individual days. The 7th is Reverse the Red Day. And the 8th, and I love that people have come up with this. Obviously, the 8th is when the Super Bowl is happening. And you spell that SUPERBOWL. And so with a slight tweak, it has also become Superb Owl Day, a great day to celebrate the owls that we love so very much. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you for listening, and especially to say thank you to my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And I'd also like to say thank you to everybody who contributed stories this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Dr. Natalie Taco, Sam Evans, Amanda Berg, Andrew King, Dr. Laura Shank, Ren Howell, Jacob Zinn, Kevin Williams, Holly Page, Jay Meredith, Nikki Morley, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Ken Tryon, and Yoshioka, Marianne Rossi, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky, The Malenskys, Turan Hanton, April Taylor, Nancy Fetters, Stephen Williamson, Chelsea James, Daniel Cohen, Kelly Plowy, Rowena White, Zach Poe, Jamie Chavez, Kristen Khalil, Jennifer Zune, and Becca Robinson. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. We'll be back on Tuesday with a brand new interview episode. And until then, remember, friends, the words newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yaswen.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.
And then last but not least in zoo news this week, Costa Rica has become the first Latin country. I put this in the wrong part. Lol. Okay, we'll move that to conservation.